Hi, this is Lee Phillips. I'm an attorney. I want to talk to you for 2 seconds about your living revocable trust. Specifically, what happens to the trust after you die. When you die, the trust suddenly changes. It becomes an irrevocable trust. That means that your beneficiaries, the successor trustees, the people who are dealing with this trust after you die, are now dealing with a different animal. When you were alive, you could revoke the trust, you could get the property back, you could do anything you wanted with it. But as soon as you die, it becomes an irrevocable trust. That means it's set in cement. Nobody can change the terms of the trust. The trust becomes its own entity. It has to get its own tax ID number. While you're alive, your living revocable trust uses your Social Security number. Because as far as the IRS, by federal law, as far as the IRS is concerned, the living revocable trust is you. You file your 1040, you use your Social Security number. But when you die, the trust then has to file its own tax returns. It has to get a tax ID number because it is now an irrevocable trust. It gives the family asset protection value because if it's an irrevocable trust, that's shielded from their creditors, their lawsuits, their problems. And as a result, the living revocable trust upon death becomes a good asset protection tool for the family. In fact, I've had a client who's moved all of their assets into the living revocable trust and structured it so that when they die, everything goes to the irrevocable trust. The surviving spouse now has to deal with an irrevocable trust, but all of those assets are protected from whatever the surviving spouse does because technically they're not their assets. They belong to an irrevocable trust. The assets can be used to benefit the surviving spouse, but the surviving spouse has no ownership interest in them. So it becomes an interesting asset protection tool, the living revocable trust, after the individual dies, becomes irrevocable. And that's a totally different type of trust. Most people don't really understand that, but that's the way it works.